Oh no, it was totally trying to prove myself and people that I was worthy. It was just, please notice me. Okay, what's missing in my portfolio? I need to do this, and this. And of course, the amount of stuff you need to do is insanely long, right? And it's never ending because you always improve. And so it was a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And the longer you're unemployed, the harder it becomes because the more you're like, I need to find a job. I need to get that much better to find one or to reach that hireable level, right?
How do you prove your artistry? This is something we delve into in this episode with concept artist Jules Darriulat. Jules plies his trade at Framestore and also partakes in many brilliant side quests in the shape of mentoring, podcasting, and co-founding the Concept 101 art event, which will be embarking on its second edition very soon. And today, we discover Jules' hustle that began at a very young age and saw him hunting for any and every artistic experience he could get his hands on, and grasping every opportunity he could to make it as a professional concept artist and working on dream projects. So let's go and find out how this journey went and has been going so far. Welcome back to the podcast, and I'm delighted to welcome on our next guest, Jules. Welcome, Jules.
Hi everyone.
Thank you for jumping on a, which is for us, a Saturday afternoon. How's it going, Jules? What are you up to these days?
Hey, well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's great to chat and be on the podcast again. My name is Jules. I'm a concept artist. I work at Framestore. I'm also the co-founder of the Concept One event and branding. So that's the event, the competition. We also do meetups in London, and we also have a podcast. And that's what I'm doing, essentially.
What, I guess, like, so we're wrapping up almost a week. What have you been doing this past week that's kind of like, I guess, your biggest priority? There's a lot of things you just mentioned there that you do. When Daniel jumped on, he mentioned a similar long list of things that you do. So like, how do you kind of like fit all this stuff in? Or yeah, like in the last past week, what has been your most pressing thing that took up a lot of your time?
I guess work takes most of my day, 8 hours per day. So yeah, obviously worked quite a lot. Then the event, because the event's happening very, very soon, we actually had to meet with the venues and sort out all the costs and all that, which
Hmm.
isn't very fun to do, but has to be done. So I did this, and I'm also trying to do some mentorships actually. So I did an hour of mentorship with a student, which was very fun. And
Cool.
that's it, I guess. Seeing friends, I've seen
Yeah.
Dan and Stefan, who are also the organizers of the event, and now the podcast, which is definitely the highlight of
Mm.
my week.
Oh, that's good to hear. We got one day left. You never know. Anything could change tomorrow.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, is the event all done now? Is that because we're less than a month away now, right?
It's getting close to be done. You know, like with event stuff, it tends to be very um, last moment organization. Not because we want to, but because, for example, let's say a venue is going to do maybe before my event, right? And today it's like a month. And they're probably going to make like 5, 6, 7, 8 other events between that.
Uh-huh.
So we remain low priority in their timetable until it's actually for them to be like, oh shit, okay, we need to focus on that now.
Sick.
Um, so there are a few things to finalize, but at the moment, luckily, most of the big elements have been done. The lineup, the talks, the timetable, the helpers, the branding, everything is like 10% left or 5% left. That
Okay.
has to be done, which is
Yeah, yeah,
annoying to
yeah.
do, but it's almost there. So it's gonna feel great in a month on the 15th when it all comes down together and we can just enjoy.
Totally. And I'm super looking forward to attending again. So obviously this is the second year, the second iteration of the event. How has it been this time around versus last year, which is obviously your maiden voyage?
Um, I think it's been easier this year because last year we had to prove ourselves more because it was the first time we did the event. And so this year we had already, let's say, a list of contacts from the previous year who we could reach out to sponsor um, or the venue. We're using the same venue, we're just expanding with another one as well. So all the contacts we had, and also the I guess the street cred we got from last year, really helped us into getting more fundings, into having insane. I mean, I can't believe the speakers that agreed to come. It was very kind of them. And so in terms of, I guess, getting the funds and finding the people, it's been way easier. And then the whole dealing with renting materials, renting the venues has been quite similar.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a bit less stress this year because we've gone through it once. So I know how many chairs I need to rent, or
Okay.
I know how many t-shirts I need to print, or how many days it's going to take
Yeah.
to print the leaflet, or how many line yards. All this very boring stuff. Now we don't need to stress about it as much. Let's say. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of time, obviously, but it's definitely getting easier, I think. So the more we do it, the easier it's gonna get, I think. Probably with everything in life is the same, actually.
What's the most surprising thing, again, from last year and this year, that you probably thought that, oh, that's not going to be a big deal so much, that ended up becoming a big deal or a pain in the ass?
Uh, Making an event, everything.
Okay, no, that's the whole thing.
No, I don't know. You would say like it's you when you finish something, you're like, oh yeah, so easy, I did it. It just boils down to doing A, B, C task, right? But then when you actually have to redo it, you realize you kind of forgot that ABC, like A is actually 12 tags within,
Yeah, yeah.
and so there's so many steps to it. And the people you work with might change as well, with the people who run stuff or the venues. And so sometimes you would expect stuff to go smoothly, but they don't. So it's, I guess, just again the work to redo. Um, but nothing too challenging, honestly. I, it's mostly time. You need to take the time to do it, send emails, make choices, reach out to people, and then it might also be some like stress or anxiety which adds up. But the tasks themselves are not like I'm not like oh my god, how am I gonna make this Instagram post? It's not hard on itself, but it's a lot of small tasks which take a lot of energy in the overall.
And in terms of like your own, I guess, way of doing things, obviously an event requires a lot of organization, as you've just explained, and I'm sure you can explain even in more detail. If you spoke for an next hour, you can still talk about different things to worry about. As an individual, are you naturally, would you say, like an organized person, or does organization come easy to you, or do you rely on maybe like say different tools or little hacks to help you get through and complete tasks?
I think it really depends what it is. I think
Right.
for work, for example, I tend to be very organized, especially for projects like personal work. I tend to try and be quite organized. Professional work, go, I try to go beyond to be extra organized.
Mm-hmm.
The event as well because it's not just me. It also involves other people, so I kind of owe them to be professional and organized. Um, and tricks, I don't know. I guess keeping notes of what I have to do
Mm-hmm.
and having deadlines and respecting those deadlines and also being honest with myself. So if I've got to do, let's say, if I want to do a piece of personal work for my portfolio, I'm gonna make sure that I set myself realistic deadlines, so I keep up to it, and I don't stress about it, and I'm not gonna be in a situation where I'm like, oh shit, I told myself 2 weeks to do it, and now it's been a month, and I'm so bad at it, and then then it just gets to you thinking you cannot do it, rather than just not having this issue at all because you just let yourself a month to do it from the start,
Yes, yes.
and it just cuts down a lot of anxiety, and also you just be honest with yourself, I guess, and set yourself realistic deadlines.
For
That's my
sure.
tip.
It took me a while to for me to be even acknowledge those things and then to be honest with myself. You mentioned something there about being like realistic with deadlines. Like myself, for example, I'd say I'm very comfortable with how I am handling deadlines now. But there
Mhm.
was a chapter in my life where it was an absolute shit show of handling deadlines, and you know a lot of the things that were problems of why I was doing that a few moments ago. Um, when did you discover that for yourself, like how to be realistic? And I guess to expand on that even more, what do you mean by being realistic when it comes to approaching a deadline? Because I guess, especially as creatives, when we see a challenge and we have a great idea, everything seems like achievable and you want to maximize it.
Hmm.
And we
Hmm.
don't tend to see the little obstacles that come in the way that can really throw you off. So yeah, when did that kind of like happen for you to understand how to really nail deadlines?
Um, I think in a professional context, I've been trying to do as much freelance, like very broad art freelance, since I'm very young. So illustration for some people from my village, or I would do some
Nice.
graphic design for like some of my parents' friends' company, or like whatever. Just trying to do as much as I can. And I think with the years, I also did quite a lot of professional graphic designs for like live streams, Twitch live streams event, and that kind of stuff. And so by doing this, I guess you get a bit used to your speed,
Hmm.
and you realize what you need. Um, like, yeah, I think it boils down to experience, I think. And because if you
Hmm.
understand how fast, if you understand your tools, and if you understand how fast you can work, then you understand how long it's going to take you to do it. But
Yes,
to know that, you need to do it, right? So
that's
after
true.
working
That's true.
freelance for a while, or after working for a client for a while, or within a company for a while, you can become able to assess how long you take or
Hmm.
need to do something, and then you just go into the mold and you apply it. So I think this is maybe how I do it. It's not something I'm necessarily trying to think of. Oh, how would I do this? And also sometimes I feel deadlines, right?
Interesting.
I mean, not at work, but in personal work. Sometimes, let's say
Yeah,
if it's a
yeah,
project that I'm not too much into, let's say going to the gym, for example, clearly isn't my most
yes.
passionate thing. I would quite often set myself deadlines and not respect them. But that's
Hmm.
probably because I'm not so much interested by it.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's super interesting. Like to look at it in that angle as well. Like, and when you mentioned that, I already hundreds of projects that flashed in my head that I definitely just rejected, whether they had a
Mm.
deadline or not. And I think, yeah, the level of importance either you put onto that or that it puts onto you, really plays a part in that as well. And I think, yeah, being smart about, I guess, picking your battles. Like, you
Mhm.
could do the same thing for every project, but then maybe 10 of those would only take you one step forward versus one of those might take you 1,000 steps forward, and doing it that way. So yeah, that's very, very interesting. And now I'm a bit sad about some of the projects that I've definitely missed deadlines on. um what do you do the most of? Obviously, like, you're a working professional, but you work, like you mentioned, you work on a lot of personal projects as well. Like, I guess, how many, what do you tend to do more of? I guess, like, obviously the obvious answer might be work, obviously, because it takes a big chunk of our day. But at the same time, there's many artists out there who are quite prolific, or even more so, on their personal adventures. How is that for you?
I think especially outside of work, I try and ask myself, what do I feel like doing, or what do I love doing? And that's what I try to do. Of course, it's not all butterflies and flowers and, oh, I want to go and go to the restaurant every day, and then I go to the
Yeah,
restaurant
yeah,
every
yeah.
day. But it's, do I feel like seeing some friends? And then I go see some friends if I want to. Do I feel like doing some work? And then I might just lock myself in my house for 4 days and do some work, some personal work.
Hmm.
But then what's more hard is to balance it. So sometimes I would struggle a lot to just spend time seeing some of my friends who are back in Switzerland. So I need to
Yeah.
maybe play games with them online, or then seeing the guys for the event, or then all of a sudden it's been 2 months I haven't done any personal work.
Hmm.
Uh, but I try to follow what I feel like doing at the moment, and then if it makes sense within a reasonable way, I'll
Hmm.
do it. And also, I guess that's even more the case since I've become a professional, because there's much less pressure now into getting a portfolio out or into improving. So yeah, it's just, I think it's important to be happy and just uh, have a good time. And so if a project doesn't make me have a good time, uh, then I just won't do it, I guess, or I just don't. I won't even start it because there's no there's no point.
Yeah. Um, Interesting thing you mentioned there as well about losing some of the pressure after becoming
Mhm.
professional. And I think that's also like, I guess, something you can only really acknowledge once that pressure's gone away. And you mentioned about enjoying art as well, and I'm sure it's similar for yourself. But before I became professional, almost everything that I did, which I enjoyed for sure, but it was laced with that anxiety of like, is this going to be enough? Is this going to get me where I need to get to? What I need to
Mhm.
improve on? Um, is that how it was for you when you was like before you broke in? Like, was there a lot of like, I guess, just trying to almost prove that you're worthy of being part of the industry, or did you have a different mindset, thinking that okay, I know I'm definitely worthy. I just got to make sure I hit these beats and then I'm good.
Oh no, I was totally trying to prove myself and people
Okay.
that I was worthy. It was just, please notice me. Okay, what's missing in my portfolio? I need to do this, 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 and this, and of course the amount of stuff you need to do is insanely long, right? And it's never ending because you always improve. And so it was a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and the longer you're unemployed, the harder it becomes because the more you're like, fuck, I need to
Yeah.
find a job. I need to get that much better to find one or to reach that hireable level,
Mhm.
right? And getting a job definitely smooths it out. Then you realize, cool, I'm in. Now I can do personal work for myself and really target what interests me, right? So, for example, today I would do personal work first of all because I feel like doing one, and then it's either because I know it's gonna allow me to learn something new. That would be a great reason for me to do personal work, or or it's a subject which I really want to tackle,
Mhm.
or I've got an idea which I really want to go with. Um, yeah, I think these two. It's either like a very good idea I have, or I think I have, maybe it's terrible, or something I really want to learn. And these two reasons are why I would do personal work today. Compared to before, it was almost more entitled to my identity as an artist.
Yeah.
You know, my personal work represents me because
Mhm.
that's my portfolio, and therefore my personal work is my professional appearance.
Yes.
And therefore, if I suck, I suck, you know, like
Yeah.
if my personal project sucks, then I suck as well. And now it's much less like this because uh, even though you always have the imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
you're hired for a reason.
Mhm.
So if a company hires you, it's never going to be for charity.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
because
True.
they make money out of you.
True.
And
True.
so if anyone is hired, I think they can just be very relaxed
Yes.
because you did it, I guess.
Imposter syndrome. Um, how is your relationship with that? Is that quite? I guess it's hard to put a metric on it, but is that something that's strong, extreme for you, or is it just something that's kind of like, you know, that little nagging voice in the background, but it's something that you can easily bat away?
Um, it varies a lot. For example, when I got the job at Framestore, I had it quite a lot at the start, and then I was like, okay, I need to prove myself again. So I did a lot of personal projects, and then I did them, and I was like, okay, cool. I feel like this projects I did describe better my current level, and therefore uh, tackle the issue that I had of being an imposter, let's say.
Mm.
And so now I guess I often sometimes have it, you know, like for example, now I'm invited on your podcast and I'm like, why me? You know, why would I be, what can I bring to people? Asking myself these kind of
Right,
questions.
right.
Uh, but again, then, you know, people don't do things for charity or they do it, but it's always, you know, everyone wins. And most of the time people do stuff because they also win something
Hmm.
and, and, or because they have an interest in you and that kind of stuff. And so with time, I guess it kind of goes away until it's going to come back, and then it's a new challenge, let's say.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, it is something that kind of like, it's like an in orbit almost, and hopefully
Mm-hmm.
it's a far orbit, but sometimes it comes dangerously close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's something that I only acknowledged more so when I got into the industry, similar to yourself. But I also realized that it's how destructive it has been for me at certain times. But I didn't realize that was a thing, almost like this invisible force.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I have definitely a epic battle with that particular thing. But it's super interesting to hear your perspective on that. And just to clarify, there's definitely no charity involved in bringing you on the podcast. You're definitely someone I want to speak to. And yeah, just this little anecdote. my first memory of you, you definitely want to probably remember this, was at industry workshops, and I think it was the one of the day events. I think it was the one before the pandemic, before
Hmm.
it all stopped, and you were at the front desk helping out. I think having lanyards and stuff,
Hmm.
and I think Daniel Matthews was there, and somehow a little mini conversation happened, and I just remember you, maybe because of your size, like you're a big guy. So yeah, definitely like you're a good silhouette, so you're very memorable. So it could have been that, but I just remember for some reason, I'm sure it's the same thing with you. Like sometimes you remember people, and then
Hmm.
they like, have a lasting impression, although we didn't speak much. And lo and behold, a few years after, we did the podcast last year, and now you're back again. So yeah, and obviously that just definitely validates the theory of if you're invited or hired or whatever, like there is not because it's by accident, or it's not because you just happen to be the only available person on the day. Like there's a reason behind it, and
Hmm.
to accept that. And I guess just stick on the theme of like acceptance. When did you kind of like? I know everyone can relate to when you're trying to prove yourself, whether it's in the industry or not in the industry, or trying to improve a client or new employers, for example. Um, when did you accept yourself as an artist? Because I guess just to touch upon some of the things you mentioned a moment ago about when you're trying to break in, when you're trying to work on your
Hmm.
portfolio and improve yourself. And a lot of the cases like, oh, there's so many steps. I need to improve on this, this, and this, and for sometimes it can be so overwhelming. Like I guess how many everyday tasks or things that you have to do that have those things, and you just definitely say, forget that, I'm not touching that. Maybe DIY projects, maybe some stuff that you have to do, maybe doing admin stuff or whatever. So it's no different to art, but for some reason, you still persevere and you make sure you do it. A lot of that has to do with self belief, perhaps. So when did you start believing in yourself as a creative, as an artist, that I can do this, or I want to do this, or I must do this? Is it all of those, or is it one of those? What was your experience?
I think it's if you go way back, right? Like having parents which are very supportive and which tell you, yes, you can become an artist if you put in the work, or we believe in you, that kind of stuff. This is the first step, I think, is having supportive people around you that make you believe that you can down the line become an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Then probably making the first bit of money with art. So being quite young and doing some freelance, even though it's not concept art, right? But it is people putting the trust into you to
Yes.
make some artistic products for them. Uh, and then I guess you always kind of step up from that. It's like, okay, first money from art, then it's like first, I don't know, internship, or bigger projects, working for a big brand, or first concept art job, starting university. Now you're studying this full time, so surely you're an artist, right? Because you're studying it. And then I guess the final boss of that is actually getting a concept art job. This is the real moment where I was like, okay, that's my, I guess, you cannot deny that I am a concept artist now, because I have a payslip which says I'm a concept artist.
Yes.
Um, and I guess this is the final stage to reach. But before that, I think is just having probably also knowing where you're going. If you know where you're going, and if you have people that support you to do what you want to pursue, um, then I don't see why there shouldn't be a reason for you to call yourself an artist, right?
Mm.
Um, I think actually probably not calling yourself an artist probably would be a bad thing, because
Yes.
what makes someone an artist, right? And the will to pursue it, and if you put in the efforts, and if you're actually trying to become an artist, then you're an artist. Uh, just with maybe less skill, but that's something that you acquire with time.
That's actually interesting way to put it. Because yeah, like a lot of the time we always look at the end result and qualify that person or whatever that is based on the end result. But a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
time, maybe it's the effort that really determines or defines what that person is. Um, so yeah, that's really interesting. Like I guess take on an artist, and obviously, like we all have our own opinions on what is art and what isn't art. Even stuff like we were speaking before this about, I guess, a different art form and how cool it is and how much of an impact it can make on another different type of art form and how they can combine.
Mm-hmm.
And what really was a common thread throughout all of that was the attention to detail, just the overall intention behind that. Um, so would you say now, where you're at now, was that are you where you want to be in terms of like as a professional on your career path, or I guess like career path is maybe not the right question because there's no such thing as a career path in art. In the professional, I believe so. Obviously, there is, but in terms of art, like you can get fired and still be an artist and still make stuff and have a path that's not linked to a career.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, like is everything on track? Is this where you want to be? What is your vision for your artistry and the kind of art you want to do?
Um, I think I'm very happy with what I am right now. I feel very lucky to be able to work in the company in which I am now, which is Framestore. Um, I get to work with insanely talented artists from which I learn a lot. And I think if your job, like if what you're doing today, you're either learning a lot or you enjoy it or you're getting paid respectfully, if you have two of those,
Yeah.
that's quite good. If you have the three, that's even better, right? But like if you're not learning, you're not getting paid well, and you're not enjoying, then why do you do that?
Hmm.
And I feel like now today, it's pretty. I'm going in the right track. I'm really enjoying where I'm working. I like to stay in the movie industry and the series industry because I enjoy the fast pace of the projects, and I really also enjoy the. I tend to get bored quite quickly, and I never try to work for a game, but I might be a bit bored of the subject, if I have to work on more than 6 months on the same game.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't because it's an amazing project, right?
Hmm.
But I really like that in the movie industry. It's like sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's 3 months, it might be up to 8 or a year, sometimes it's like 2 days. And I really like the every day is new. You always have a new brief, different context, different art style, and that's really something that it's great because you don't have a routine within your work task.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I guess in the future, just continue doing this and maybe getting a art director or whatever is the next, right? But at the
Yeah.
moment, I'm not really thinking too much about. I'm enjoying because I got the job like 6 or 8 months ago, so
Hmm.
I'm enjoying the job, trying to learn as much as I can. I think it's very important to keep learning
Hmm.
and see where that goes.
Cool. So, beginning of the year, right? I guess like January, February time.
Yeah.
I don't even know what month, but in August. Yeah. So, mostly 2023 was a Framestore journey. But first of all, congratulations on the gig. Like Framestore is world class. Like the reputation
Yes.
is world class. And it sounds like you're having a world class experience. Um, like what kind of things? I guess like, in that experience of the last like say 6 to 8 months or so, how much of an impact has it made on yourself as a creative, maybe in your approach to work versus previously? Has there been something distinctive, or is it just like everything is just kind of the same, but maybe on a higher level, or has it completely blown your socks off?
Um, I think it's so. Luckily, I was also in the awesome company before with a guy called Nandor
Mm-hmm.
Moldovan, who was my lead and taught me so much.
Sick.
And so, Framestore has been insane. I've been learning so much, but I think I've been learning a lot of technical aspects on
Right.
how to to craft maybe to a higher level of imagery. But the job itself has stayed very similar to before because I've been in practice. I was working on TV shows and movies already. I guess some of them maybe were not as big budgets, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of daily job and daily tasks, it's been very similar. So I don't think it hasn't felt like a whole other world,
Cool.
but it felt very good because I kind of see it as a progression
Yeah.
and as being able to learn more, maybe faster.
Yeah.
There's a there's one of my colleagues, Jonathan. He's amazing at Blender, so I've been learning so many of his tricks. Uh, and I mean, all of them are so good. So just by speaking and working with them, you
Mm-hmm.
kind of learn. You kind of get to give them tricks, and they give you tricks,
Nice.
and share a lot of arts and ideas.
And what's the, I guess, the structure like that? Do you work in studio, or is it a bit of remote, or is it a mixture?
At the moment, I work remote entirely, so I never actually worked in an office.
Ah,
I
interesting.
did go a few times on sets in my previous jobs. Otherwise, it's mostly office. Oh, sorry, from home.
And is that in previous jobs as well? Like your career so far has been remote,
Yeah, I
almost.
mean, yeah, I got hired during COVID, so
Ah, of course. Yeah, fair
uh,
enough.
yeah, it's just been working from home, which I actually quite enjoy.
Hmm.
Uh, but I do notice a few times when I get to go to the office or on sets, it really changes to meet the people in real life, or maybe just to go meet them at the bar or being able to interact in person. It
Yeah.
really gives another dimension to it. Really get to understand someone and to create bonds which are much deeper
Mm.
once you spend actual time with them. Uh, that said, I love my desk. I've got a
Fair
very nice
enough.
setup. I've
Yeah.
got a very nice chair, so I've I've made myself very comfortable, I guess, and so working from home hasn't been an issue at all for me.
Hmm. Like similar to myself, I'm very aware, and I learned the hard way, of the drawbacks to working remotely. A lot of it is more on the health side of things
Hmm.
and just me not taking care of things that should be taken care of. But otherwise, my go-to preference is work. I guess you call it remotely at home, but in my space. And my space
Mm.
is curated and specified to my specifications, where I can just do what I need to do and almost have everything that I need. So I guess another answer in advance, but what would you like? I guess do you prefer? Because I've spoken to many colleagues and friends in different industries as well as our own, who it's almost 50-50 split, where it's contrasting like I
Hmm.
despise working from home to I do want nothing else. This is the thing. This is my future. This is my life. Where do you sit on that? Like, would you prefer if it was up to you to work remotely, or maybe you're one of those who does prefer like maybe a hybrid situation?
Hmm. I think hybrid would probably be the best.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Again, never really worked at the office a long time, so that would
Right.
need to I would need to try it to really be able to speak about it. But I think why not like maybe 3 or 4 days at home, maybe 3 days and then two at the office. Uh, that way you get to meet the people, spend time with
Yes.
them, maybe learn a bit more efficiently. That could be cool. Also, because I'm in London, it's not too far, so
Mm.
that also changes, right? If before the company was in Cardiff and I was in London, so that would have been completely different for me. I could not work in the office. So being able to go there and meet people, I think, is really important. And despite, if I have to get up earlier, I have to spend £10 to get back and forth in the
Oh
tube.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I either have to prep the meals or buy the meals in central London, which is expensive. I'm going to lose time and I'm going to lose money by going to the office. It is a hassle, but it is, I'm talking about the bad stuff, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it is also a very good thing because it gets you bring your ass out of the house, you get to be social, not from a screen, outside of in real life, and it's very good. And yeah, so I think if I get to choose, probably some office. What about you?
Um, so in creative sense, I've only ever worked remotely, and I
Hmm.
think a lot of the clients, because they've been different time zones, it seems the most practical way.
Hmm.
And for me to work in the studio, I have no aversion to it at all. But with my family and I guess the requirements that we have, it needs to be like Goldilocks. Like everything needs to be fit perfectly, like with schools, with location, all that kind of stuff. So it does seem like a rare thing for it to happen, or unless I become to such a high level, which I'm definitely not at yet, where I can almost dictate that on my terms, which is probably not going to happen anytime soon. So I'm very aware that the ideal situation is not likely. So therefore, the remote situation ticks all the boxes that we need, and I can still deliver the work that I need to deliver. However, in previous jobs, I had to work in a store, in a studio, not in a studio, sorry, but with teams,
Hmm.
and all the ones that I did, all the companies that I worked for, as a person, like my natural, I'm a bit of a hermit. I'm a bit of like just stay solo, do my own thing. I like meeting people, but only when it's a place where you can actually meet. I don't like things where it's like a process, a chore, or whatever. Like like going shopping or taking care of whatever you need to take care of. Like Concept 101, for example. I enjoy it because I get to go there, meet people, talk to people, and it's in a place that is to my taste. a lot of other things in daily life is not to my taste. So in that sense, like working remotely is, it definitely ticks that box, and it makes me comfortable in that sense. However, when it comes to meeting with people, getting to know people, building bonds with people, having a laugh and a joke, and almost even going into battle. I used to work in sales, so anyone who ever does knows what I mean when I say go into battle. Like sometimes it's all against you. Sometimes you got like, if you don't hit that target, I'm not being dramatic, your job's over, kind of thing. So it's like getting together, kind of going to war, so to speak, to kind of nail that. You learn a lot about people, what they can do, what they won't do, the ones that you can rely on, the ones that you can't rely on. Also, the ones that will drag other people through to make sure everyone wins. So you cannot learn that from home. You cannot learn that. Well, I guess you can, but from my experience, I could not have learned the things I learned working with people versus being remotely. However, my conclusion now is I don't necessarily need to be, I guess, maybe in a studio setup to do that. But what I would, which I think maybe some companies could catch up on, is you mentioned there about the socializing with your fellow soldiers, the people that you go to battle with, so to speak. And obviously, when it comes to time of like when you got to complete tasks, it is like all hands at deck. You got to deliver, do your thing, and ultimately that's what you're there for, and that's it. And if you don't do it, you can be replaced. However, if there is moments where you get to know that person, you get to connect with that person on a deeper level, whether it's just like having a laugh or a joke or whatever, there's something powerful about that you can't buy. You have to experience that. You have to give something of yourself, take something from someone else, and sometimes it's just like, how are we doing now? They're just talking, communicating, sharing experiences. That's all it takes. However, I've also been on jobs where you do that, and again, your job could be on the line because they don't want you to talk and do things. You have to be very rigid and so on. So like if companies, the ones that, because obviously I'm not sure what it's like in other parts of the world, but from what I can read, it's the same. But in the UK, there's obviously a lot of things now where companies are trying to usher people back into offices. And some people that necessarily don't want to, they're saying you have to almost, or to the point if you don't, you lose your job. That's the extreme it's getting. For some companies who can probably don't need that, if you can organize something where maybe it's not work, but you just get like, you've probably seen those corporate ones where it's like team building exercises, which is like for a day, everyone has fun and that's it. Those are great. Those are cool. But if you do that on a regular basis, where it's literally just put people in the same space, maybe just even talk or not, or just chill out, or even just talk stuff but not do work. But I kind of have an idea, but I don't know how to articulate it. But if companies did that more often, I think that would help. So, for example, like with the meetups that you guys do, with the art meetups, like going there. Sometimes you can just go there just for the drawing to speak to people, but there's something really cool about that. There's no pressure. There's no pressure of like delivering work. It's just get together, do your thing. And there's something super duper healthy with human interaction, and that's someone who almost avoids it saying that, as opposed to someone who thrives off it. So even a few years ago, I'd be looked and say, I don't need that kind of stuff. I am 100% saying, no, you need that stuff.
It's quite like I kind of I'm the same with you for this. I'm not the kind of person who's going to be like, hey, let's meet up with 1,000 artists and let's be ultra social. Like that's really not what I do naturally, let's say. And it's been a real exercise, I guess, for me to make the event and make the meetups with the other guys, because it kind of goes against what I would tend to do naturally, which is be a bit by myself or with only a few friends, which I tend to keep very close. And it's been a very good exercise to having to get out of my way and be like, hey guys, how are you doing? How's the event going? Or how's the drink and draw, and trying to be social with everyone. And it's but it only brings good stuff, right? It will never bring something bad to be open to people and going to speak with them. And that's why I think it's so important to socialize and also to network, because if most of the time about getting new friends or getting a new job, even if you have someone who's the same level as you, same experience as you, they're going to pick the social one, or they're going to pick the person that they know is a good person. And they can only know that by meeting you, by speaking with you, by hearing other people speak about you. And it's a very important part of our career, which we try to put a bit under the carpet because it's not the most it's much nicer to make sexy images, right, rather than go and meet people. But it's very important, and I think that's also what we're trying to do with the event, is really allowing to give people a platform to be social and speak and make it very comfortable, because it's a very it's not like a I mean, it is a professional setting, but it's not like no one is in a suit, no one is looking down to you, everyone at the same level. We have an after party, and it really allows people to relax, hopefully, and to really just have a organic chat, I guess, and enjoy.
Yeah. I know of people, I love them to death, but they are very much into, shout out to people who do, but suit wearing and being in non-organic situations where it's
Mm.
almost like curated, hyper professional, and they kill it. Good for them. But yeah, man, like the organic, and I think there's something maybe in our industry and maybe us in general where like maybe that's the only way. You can't really do it there. Imagine if Concept Art 101 and all the other events were like three-piece suit and tie, and yeah, let's sit there and like, yeah, I don't think it would work. Like you have to be,
Yeah.
yeah, it just wouldn't work. And yeah, just to mention the event as well. Like one of my favorite things, and it's a shame because I don't go. I'm not able to, but I don't go to the ones that are around worldwide. But the ones I have been to, um, like last year 101. Obviously, you got the talks, which are great, and that middle bit between the rooms where people could just talk and socialize.
Mhm.
And in each room that I was in, I have a memorable experience in each one for different
Nice.
things.
Yeah.
And I think that's really really important. Like yeah, because like you said, like images we can all obviously we try to and we always will do. That's our thing. That's what we deliver.
Mhm.
But there's something about just speaking to a fellow professional, someone that you've known but never met, which is also quite powerful as well. And
Mhm.
then just getting to see just I guess the organic side to them,
Mhm.
which is super duper powerful. What kind of comments, maybe experiences that you've heard from attendees at last year's event that really stuck with you? That really thought, okay, wow, I didn't expect that, or yes, this is
Mhm.
exactly what we were going for.
I think people getting hired was awesome, because I was like, oh wow, cool. That's just insane. Or like, someone telling me that their sister or brother or small cousin came and they were like, wow, concept art is amazing. Kind of discovering the world of concept art. And
Yes.
this really, really resonates with me, because that's what I went through as well when I was 15, and I got to industry workshops, and then I kind of grew up with it, because industry workshops lasted for so long that I would each year go to it, and it was like it was almost a beacon in my year. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna get reminded what being concept art is and what I'm aspiring to become. And it was like such an important part in the year for everyone. And now, hearing that people are looking forward to the event, or hearing that people got jobs or met clients, or um, whatever they had good coming out of the event, is really great, because that's the reason we do it.
Hmm.
It's for people to make connection happen, I guess, and or make people learn something at least.
I
Um,
I think
yeah.
that sorry to jump in. I think that's one thing really powerful that I've observed about this industry, and I think our community in general is the genuine. I know not everyone's like this, but from what I've seen, it's very abnormally high versus what I've seen in other industries. But how happy or genuinely enthusiastic people are when people get opportunities. It's
Mhm.
almost like, what is it, Toy Story, when the claw comes down and everyone celebrates the one that's getting selected. It's almost like that. Like we're all in this little container, and then we get selected. Like yes, the claw, and then you go take it away to a nice happy place.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that, and even though I've not made any direct impact towards that, I'm glad that I'm a part of a community that does that. And things like Concept
You
101 definitely
Yeah.
enforce that.
I mean, Learn Squared is definitely doing a lot of that as well, because you're facilitating a lot of knowledge to people. You're giving a voice to many artists as well, to just speak to a broader audience that they wouldn't be have access to otherwise. And the courses as well are. I mean, most of my when I took a year to learn concept. I mean, I was already learning concept art,
Yep.
but then I took a specific year to learn it. And the Learn Squared courses, some of them were the ones that taught me the most, or really allowed me to jump in next level skills. So no, definitely you guys are doing well.
Oh no, Learn Squared for sure. Like that was my start with Learn Squared as well, but not me directly. Definitely not. Like I had a similar thing as well, where like my serious learning came by taking landscape courses, and obviously eventually I started working here. So yeah, I definitely understand your perspective or your step on that as well. Um, 15 industry workshops. That's I'd like to talk to more about that. Like my first art event and industry workshop event was the same one, and I was 30. Well, I think I just turned 30. Either way, I was sad because I turned 30 and I had not made my career yet. So I was very sorrowful at the time. Obviously, you were like 15 years younger at that point. Um, what was it like for you at that point? Like what was your? As you mentioned it a little bit before, but I'd love to go into a bit more detail of like
Mhm.
what was going through your mind, like when you were seeing all these things, the impression that it made upon you. Um, yeah, what was it like?
It was like going to Disneyland. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
all those grown-ups who know how to draw. And then I would look back at my, my portfolio at the time was literally piece of papers on which I had drawn, right?
Yes.
And I had just started, I think, doing some digital painting, but it wasn't, yeah, like a Wacom bamboo stuff,
Right.
And yeah, because I'm from Switzerland, so I would travel to London
Mm-hmm.
every year for the events, and I would ask my school to give me some days off. And I guess
Nice.
they were kind enough to support me, and also my parents were kind enough to allow me to travel to London once per year. And also, when I was 15, they just came with me because
Yeah.
I was too young to travel
Yeah.
by myself. So my mom went to industry workshops as well,
Oh
which is
wow.
quite funny. Yeah. Um, and then also, I was very lucky to have Daniel Matthews, who's one of the organizers of industry workshops, who really he took the time to kind of explain me a lot about concept art,
Wow.
explain me the process of it, and then also just being a helper at the event for all these years, I had almost like a front seat because I would just hang out with the artists who were the
Mhm.
speakers, and also probably helped us quite a lot to make the event later on because I saw how everything was made. Um, but yeah, and every year it was this kind of, that's what I'm working towards. It's this, to become like these people, and it would also be a great way to know where I am, in my student life, I guess,
Mhm.
or and how bad is my art. Every year I would go there and I would be like, okay, I'm so shit. And I would go back home. I would build confidence throughout the year. Go back to industry workshops, get destroyed, and then go back home. But it was very healthy, to be fair.
Yeah.
It was what I
Yeah.
needed because when you're from a place where no one does that, it's very easy to become very confident about your work or thinking you're the best in the world, which clearly you're not. And it's yeah, it's so important to allow yourself to not be hermetic, but be open to other feedback and to other
Mm-hmm.
people, especially in the industry where, I mean, I guess the face of the industry probably is ArtStation, which is just not at all what the industry is, right? It's just a bunch of trending artworks which don't represent at all the industry to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you never meet a concept artist or if you never meet anyone from the industry, that's what you're going to think it is. It's ArtStation. That's what concept art is. And I it's very important to at least message people on Instagram or message people on Discord or try to just get other voices rather than just trending images on internet,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise your vision of what you need to do or how to achieve it is going to be completely blurred by trending images. And yet, so I guess this allowed me to, with the years, have, I guess, an understanding of what I needed to do, and definitely facilitated it facilitated
Yeah, no, I got you.
yeah
I can't even say it.
facilitated
Facilitated, but we know though. We get
yeah.
it. Yeah.
uh yeah, he did that to I guess knowing which path to take, and then later on I went to the UK to study computer animation, art and design,
Mhm.
which isn't concept art, but at the time it was, I think, the best counterpart I had found.
Right, right, right.
And um and yeah, and I guess, then industry workshops stopped because of course it's a lot of work to make it, and uh, you cannot run an event forever. And then there was just uh, an empty room to fill, and then there was COVID as well. And I guess that's also at the same time where I became professional. And when meeting Stefan and Daniel, we were just like, oh well, let's do it, because it meant so much to us, and it still means so much to me because I grew up with those events, so it really is important to keep it going because I almost owe those events my career because it really opened my eyes on the industry.
Hmm. Um, do you think maybe like obviously I think that's almost when you get that conclusion, it's the right conclusion, but we almost always end up getting that conclusion when we see either get feedback or we're developing our work, and I'm sure it's the case now as well. And you see someone that's way, way better than you, and you just think, "Wow, my work is shit." That's almost like that could be a T-shirt, right? Like that is when you know you're a concept artist or an artist in general, where that's your conclusion to what your art is because you've seen where somewhere where you can obviously grow. Um, when you saw that, was that just like, or when you came to that conclusion? By the way, what year was it when you first went to industry
It was the
workshops?
first industry workshops.
Oh, okay. When did they
Yeah,
start? Was that 2015, 16?
I wouldn't
Because I
know.
went to the one in, I think, 17.
It wasn't like many buildings. It was
No, no,
like
no. It
three
was like
buildings.
there's a bunch of buildings, and then there's one across the road, like on the other
Yeah,
side.
I
So
think that was the first one. I can check, but
2017, I think. Maybe
yeah,
16. I don't know.
um, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I mean, I was to all of them, so
Uh, um,
probably met you there.
and so yeah. So when you were there, like, was that almost like encouraging for you to know that okay, there's a way for I need to improve? And when you saw that, did you feel like yes, I can improve, or did you leave away thinking, okay, I need to improve, but how the hell do I do this?
The first time it was very painful. I think it was
Mm,
because this is the first time you are facing such harsh feedback or facing the reality. So of course, the reality isn't what I was expecting. And but then, of course, give it time, give it maybe more maturity. You can understand it, and then I guess rather than being frustrated about it, it becomes more about fueling yourself, the energy to become better, and rather than being frustrated, as maybe thinking harder about the feedback on okay, I know these are wrong. How am I going to make it not wrong? How am I going to make it better? And using this energy towards actually improving.
mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I remember the first time I got the feedback. I was like, oh, I don't want to be a concept artist anymore. Just, I don't want it. But that was a day, right? And the day after, I was like, okay, fair
Got it.
enough, I
Okay.
understand. And it was mostly a lot of motivation, but it is painful. But it has to be pain. It cannot not be painful, or you don't
Yes.
care, right? And
Yes.
especially, I think now with professional work, it's not painful because I know it's almost not my work. It's someone else's vision, which I'm just helping to make most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not a painful process at all to be rejected. But for personal work, it still is my vision, what I take my free time to make, and what I believe is a good image, what I believe is a good design. And so it almost, if it matters to you, it almost has to hurt in a way, I think. And then I guess you just learn to take it better or badly.
So imagine now that you had not been to, probably hard to you because you've been to so many and organizing some, but imagine you went to an art event now and this is your first one and you had that experience that you had at 15 now, where you showed your work and you got the same kind of feedback. Do you think you'd have the same conclusion, same experience, or would it be different?
I think there's much more resources online now, um, which probably make people more aware of the industry without necessarily being present at all those events. So you kind of get to maybe level 1 or 2 of your knowledge before having to go to events.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think just being open-minded, understanding that the person who's giving you feedback, as a fact, knows better than you, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If he's in a position to give you feedback, he knows better than you, and to listen to it and to put yourself in question. Because I mean, I think no matter the level you are at, you should get feedback and you should listen to it and ask yourself, "Am I wrong?" Even if you're, I don't know, insane talented artist, you might be wrong on some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's your first event, I think it's a healthy thing to be open-minded, be open to feedback, be open to critique, and then give you like maybe 1 or 2 weeks to just think about it,
Yes.
go back to it, assess it, and then okay, what am I getting from this? Is this feedback true? How many people told me that feedback? If just one person told you that the wheel of your vehicle had to be square, well, maybe this person is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if everyone tells you you need to practice fundamentals, you have to practice fundamentals.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, I think just be open-minded and it's normal that people are better than you, and it's normal that you have to learn a lot because we always will have to learn a lot, and there's always going to be someone who's going to look at our work and be like, pathetic.
um, and I guess just to I totally agree with you. Just to play devil's advocate,
Mhm.
and more so from the perspective of the beginners that should be listening to this episode now, and who are in that position of thinking like, you know how it is when you're starting out, or even trying to figure out a way. It's always like what ifs, whys, hows,
Mhm.
and second guessing, triple guessing, well, whatever it is after that, like to figure out what do you need to do,
Mhm.
before they even attempt it. Like, how do you know when someone is giving you good feedback without almost knowing good art yourself, so to speak? Like, is it based on their work? Is it how they communicate? Like, I guess what kind of things can people look out for? Obviously, the great one is if someone's saying to do square wheels when they should be round, unless there's a clear reason why they should be square. That's probably a great one. But yeah, like, do you have any thoughts on that?
uh, it's important to know who you're talking to. So if you're talking to an art director at a huge film company, then most likely he knows what he's talking about. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, maybe video game stuff, he wouldn't be the best person to ask feedback about. I mean, it would be good because he's not a director as a very respectable company. But if you want video game targeted feedback, or let's say mobile game, cartoony, Clash of Clans type of feedback, maybe go to someone who does that as a living, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I want feedback about how to make a car, I wouldn't go I wouldn't ask feedback to myself, for example, if someone wants to feedback about the car, because I know I don't know how to do that, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
clearly my portfolio isn't targeted towards making cars
Yes,
or
yes.
hard surface. So it's important to either do the research before or after to know who talked to you. Are they professional workers? Um, in which company they're working for, which industry, and then I guess you can realize how
Mm-hmm.
good the feedback was. Does that make sense to you?
No, totally, one
Yeah.
million percent.
Cool.
I learned that, like, I was very surprised because I just thought at that point in time, like, you always keep hearing, at least on job pages when you're looking for jobs, I had a degree and I could apply for jobs and it just wasn't working. But one thing I didn't have at the time, or I didn't want to put out at the time because I didn't think it was worthy, was that word portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a portfolio desired but not required. One
Mm-hmm.
million percent is always required, especially in our industry. Like, you could almost not say a single thing, hand in your portfolio, and that should get you almost there. And the bit you say will probably make sure you don't get there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, I just thought that very naively, that I just need X amount of pieces, and that's it. And only more so obviously starting to work in the industry, but speaking to the different, like you mentioned, studios, going around table to table, conversating with people, understanding different people's roles, whatever you, that there are differences with the different segments of the industry, like games versus films versus
Mm-hmm.
maybe general illustrations or anything else. There's definitely like set skill sets and requirements, and then also within that, each company has their own different way of doing things and different styles. And some people like their left foot forward when they speak, when they walk. Some people like the right foot forward. Little details like
Mm-hmm.
that, like paying, understanding. Okay, there's more to this, and I need to find a way to be the perfect Lego piece in that particular company, as opposed to brute forcing it, like, hey, this is my portfolio, it's great, I can work for all of you. And I did that mistake. I remember showing some of my portfolio, and it was in the high double figures of how many pieces were in there. And poor guy, I just remember him going for each page thinking, oh god, there's more, there's more,
Yeah.
to the point where, like, he got so fatigued with the
And the
work.
suffering.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I could end this, but I feel embarrassed, so I'm just gonna say, yeah, I did this. And it just, yeah, it was I'm never doing that again, and I never will. But yeah, that's the kind of things I learned. um
Yeah, it's good because you got
yeah.
something out of it, right?
Oh,
It's
exactly.
valuable experience anyway.
Yes. So some of the best, and you agree as well, some of the best learnings are when you fuck up, when you do something and you realize, okay, yeah, that was my fault, and I'm not doing it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then you normally tend not to. And if you do, then it's on you. At 15, like, why? What made you want to go to industry workshops? Like, how long has this art journey been for you? Like, when did it begin? Like, when you, like, to the path you're on today? Like, at 15, was it like out of curiosity you went to industry workshops, or was you already actively working on your portfolio to get into the industry? So yeah, like, when did this, Jules, I want to be an artist, I want to work in movies, when did that journey actually begin? Is there a specific point?
I think wanting to be an artist has been, it's very cliche, but pretty much my whole life because I was always the drawing guy, let's say. And also having parents which really supported me in that direction, probably again that word, facilitated it. Yes, I got it.
We'll make a new word. It's all good.
And having them helping me in that, or kind of giving me some tips on maybe where to look, helped me. I really like video games, so as soon as I understood that video game art was a thing, I looked into it. I also really liked comic books. My dad is a big fan of comic books, so we got loads at home. So all that kind of stuff I kind of grew up with. And when I told my parents that I like to work for games, then they kind of helped me look into some studios and stuff. And once we went to London, I think that was 1 year before industry workshops. We went to
Nice.
London just to visit, and my mum kind of pushed me to email a studio called Opus Arts in London,
Sick.
and she was like, "Oh, you should email them. You know, like you never know, they might just meet with you and give you feedback." Because
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
time, I was already doing some evening courses and some live drawing just for fun, you know.
yeah.
And so I emailed them, and they were extremely kind to meet me. And so it was again, I think my mom, my dad, and myself, and we met. I think at the time it was Jamie Clapham, uh, I think Bjorn as well, uh, a few artists who just met with me for like lunch, and
Yes.
they just gave me feedback on my portfolio, which again at the time was it wasn't even called a portfolio; it was just a bunch of images,
Yeah, yeah.
and they told me, "Oh, you should reach out to Daniel Matthews because he might need some people to help,
Sick.
and that could be a good entry door, I guess." And I listened to them because obviously they know,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's how I got into. And then I emailed Daniel, and but that's I think mostly thanks to my parents because I
Hmm.
would have never had the will or the I would have been way too shy to email anyone at that
Yeah.
time. But they were right to push me. Yeah.
Shout out to you, but yeah, I was gonna say like firstly shout out to them and shout out to everyone that helps you as well because it's just that I guess that little nudge, right? That little nudge, like you can do this,
Mm.
and you did it, and fast forward and here you are today. Um, but like I guess at this current day and age, what kind of practices would you say people should be doing, and how can they almost do a similar thing like you did, where it was a case of like reaching out, networking, and just kind of putting yourself out there, and then seeing what comes of that. Like, what kind of tips would you lend to people?
I think being open to meeting new people is very important. Not putting yourself alone, you know, asking for feedback. Because I did go to all these events, but at the same time, I kept being a bit by myself outside of the events, you know. And it's only when I actually moved to London a few years ago, which I started to have concept artist friends, and
Mm,
I started to really get into the networking, but in a professional way, let's say, and also having friends in the industry. And this is when I got a lot of valuable feedback from my friends when I really saw my work quality get higher. And so yeah, I think just finding like-minded people, getting them to give you valuable feedback because they also are doing this hopefully as students or as a living, and then trying to build a portfolio which answers the requirements to which company you want to be with, you want to work at. So that requires a lot of research, of course. If you want to work for a video game, that's a completely different portfolio than if you want to work for a movie in the movie industry,
mm,
and learn the fundamentals, and yeah, keep going from there. I think it's very important, especially for personal projects and for portfolios, to not have too many pieces in there, and to each piece hopefully show something different
mm-hmm.
or something new. Very important to show you can design. I think design is more important than technique. Of course, technique has to be at a minimum to be hireable.
Sure.
But
Yes.
then, if you have great design and okay technique, you're gonna be easy more higher than if you're great technique, bad designs, right? At least in my
Yeah.
opinion. Um, and yeah, I really like when I do my for my portfolio pieces to make it almost dumb stupid. Like, how can I make a creature which is original, but you can only describe in 2 words?
Nice.
And that's what's gonna make it that people remind get like don't forget your work, right? because if they can describe it or if it's something they haven't seen before, then it's just going to stick with them. Also, I like to research if it's been done before, and if I see someone else doing it, I'm not going to do it because I don't want. I mean, yeah, you can if you want to just bring your own take on it, but to really have something original, I think it's interesting to have something that truly has never seen, which can be hard sometimes. It's very hard to find an idea that no one has ever done, but I think it's a good practice to avoid making another tank or another dragon,
Yeah.
which can, I think, for recruiters be very repetitive.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
noticed, and I think this is not just an art thing. I think it's a human thing, where often people would always default to doing a different version of what's proven or what's
mhm,
ever already existing. Like for example, you know, when the iPhone did its thing, I know people have tried or companies have tried, but everyone's kind of defaulted to okay, it's got to just do what the iPhone can do and maybe a little bit extra.
mhm,
Something completely revolutionary, it just doesn't work or it falls away, which is fine. It makes sense, and obviously when there's business decisions involved, I can see why. I guess like with art, it's almost not necessarily being very like don't mean to be disrespectful to the ones that do this, but there's maybe very distinct camps where there's the ones that okay, that's proven. I'm just going to show that I can do this proven thing
mhm,
very well as well. And then there's another camp which is like kind of what you were explaining, where it's like I'm chasing originality. I'm chasing something new,
mhm.
and I got to find a way to realize that. Um. So yeah, I guess my question is that hunt for original pieces and original designs, original ideas, is that strategic or is that almost just who you are? Like that's your creative energy, so to speak.
I think it's a bit of both, but most likely strategic,
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to stand out, and uh, I guess I'm trying to have more impact of, let's how to say that. I'm trying to give me as much chance as I can to stand out. Standing out designing a dragon is extremely hard, but standing out designing something no one has ever designed is quite easy because
Mm-hmm.
no one has ever designed it.
Yes,
Well, I
yes,
guess
that's true.
you have
Yes.
to fight less people, um, and also on the work you do, you kind of want to do the work you want to be hired for, and if you find I don't know how I would say that really. It's like asking yourself what you want to do, where you want to work, and then trying to have a plan of what you need in the portfolio to work there. Once you have this plan, then you can start making some pieces. And then let's say I want to work on a new creature, I'm gonna try and find like transparent monkey, and then I look online and I don't see any transparent monkey, so I'm like, okay, it's not too bad of an idea. I feel like it's fairly easy doable. I'm gonna do that. Or like insects, crocodile, or jellyfish submarine. All the very simple ideas, which actually take a lot of design and time to make it. But when you look online, no one has done it, and it's easily descriptive. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if I really answered the question here, but this is the way I try to tackle personal work, and
Mm-hmm.
also trying to learn new things with every piece. So
Mm-hmm.
like first sim, or how to do clothing, or how to do a hard surface, and each piece trying to add value to my tool belt and to what I can tackle in future personal projects or
Mm-hmm.
or professional work.
That definitely did answer the question for sure. And yeah, like I guess just to clarify for the listeners, your style is very much, I guess, like in terms of in concept art, a generalist because you have to do almost everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess within Framestore, because you got so many different types of projects, different briefs, different visions, you
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to be adaptable to each of those. How do you find that?
So how do I train for that, or how do I like doing it?
I guess both, like because that's something that I guess you have to kind of all equally be strategic about,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you have to nurture, you have to curate, as opposed to being super specific
Mm-hmm.
on one particular thread. So, like, is that something? Because you kind of described it a little bit before, like almost with the freelance gigs you did very early on from graphic design. So you kind of have shown that you did these different little disciplines
Mhm.
from the same skill set. So did this come naturally to you, or is this something that you've had to kind of be? You had to make some tweaks to be able to deliver on
I,
what you
th-
need to deliver on.
I think it's you try and have a broad enough tool belt, so 3D paint over, some design skills, and then how to make some like lighting skills, perspective skills. And once you have this tool belt, then you can use it to make hopefully a lot of different designs, vehicle
Mm-hmm.
designs, creature designs, environment, keyframes, all that kind of stuff. And then it's about being good enough at each of those skills that you will be able to do your work uh, in a professional way, or to a certain level that the company is asking you to do it. That's something I really like working in the movie industry, is because you always get to do new stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is so cool because your brain is always working, right? Um, but it's true that it requires like you cannot really specify yourself. Uh, so I can never. There's as much as a tool I need to learn, because otherwise I want to learn the other tools which I also need to learn at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, is that
No, no, yeah.
yeah.
Back to portfolio. What do you think? Again, this is for beginners and for listeners that are tuning in who are very unsure, maybe about portfolios. And I'm sure you've been there. I definitely have been there, where it was like, what do I even put in there? And although it is straightforward, and eventually it clicks, and it's oh, that's what needs to go in there.
Mhm.
Um, you can still be very creative with it and be very strategic with it, or just be very organic with it and just put what you want.
Mhm.
But from your experiences and based on your journey so far and your perspective, what I guess like maybe a few tips of, based on your opinion, what a portfolio should be and should contain.
You need to show that you can do similar skill level images many times. So if you can make a very realistic environment once, it might be a one time wonder. Twice, it's going to be okay, why not? And three times, okay, they know you can do it for sure. So you kind of want to show this as many skills as you can, as
Mm-hmm.
many times as you can, but at the same time retaining not too many pieces, which is quite tricky. Um, what I like to do is a lot of kind of small projects, and then with one project, I'm going to tackle many of these elements. So let's say a creature, well, you're going to design a creature, and then you're also going to design an environment for it. So that's two of them, and then maybe you're going to make um, a vehicle, and then you're going to design a vehicle, and then design an environment for it as well, or a dude that's going to go inside, and you're going to try and tick all these necessary skills that you need to have in movies, and maybe also the keyframes with those projects, so you can show a broad enough variety of work. So you have environments, you have some keyframes, you have some uh, prop design, maybe some creature design, and you also want to keep the same quality for all of those, which is quite tricky to get right. It takes time,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I think this would be great for a movie industry portfolio, um,
Mm.
because that way people that are going to look at it, they know they can hit you with any briefs,
Yes.
and you're going to be able to make it at the same level of quality, which is hopefully standard in your portfolio. And uh, if you have a vehicle design, then you should be able, you should have the knowledge required to design another vehicle.
Mm-hmm. And based on with what you said, let's say that's a 5-star portfolio. Like that's the 5-star rating of a portfolio based on Jules. You got amazing work. You got creative work, and you got some really interesting perspectives on the worlds and things you create. So based on that 5-star rating, what is based on your portfolio? How many stars would you give it?
Oh, uh, it's hard to judge your own work, because you have to compare it to someone else.
That
And so if I compare it to other insane artists, well, it's not gonna be a good rating. If I compare it to myself 2 years ago, it's gonna be a 5-star rating. You
okay.
know, so it depends. I think I don't know what's the 2.5 average, and I hopefully always
Interesting.
stays 2.5. Because
Yes,
you can always
yes.
improve. So I guess I compare. Okay, compared to hopefully compared to me in 2 years, it's a 2.5,
Got it.
and compared to me 2 years ago, it's a 5. Right? I guess
Big
because you
difference.
always get better and you always learn new stuff. Um, and yeah, at the moment I'm happy with it. I don't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
have any issues with it. I know I can do better, and I know I will do better
Hmm.
because that's what I'm working towards too. But that takes time. So.
No, for sure. And I think that's one of the coolest things about this job is that hunt, that knowing that the ceiling can always be higher,
Mhm.
and knowing that you can always push it. And I guess also having the restraint to kind of like allowing yourself to have the time to really push it. It's like those computer games where like you get to level 20 in almost about, very quickly, but then to get to level 20, 25
Mhm.
takes triple the amount of time. Because you got to get, it's just, yeah, you just need a lot more. But that's okay. In terms of like your inspirations, so you've spoken about what it's like to be on movies, you've spoken about obviously what it's like to be on the job and how to get good at work and how you got good yourself. Who are the people that inspired you and still inspire you, and maybe are like, your go-to's of like, okay, that's my benchmark, that's my
Mhm.
North Star.
I I tend not to look too much at other people's work, or at least I look at maybe pieces rather than persons, right?
Yeah,
So there's like a few pieces which I know I like a lot, or like when I start a new project, I gather references, and I always have most of my references are always real life pictures, but then I always have like
yeah,
one or two projects from people which either hit the quality mark I want to reach, or the design type or that kind of stuff. And yeah, also I'm very bad with names, so I wouldn't be able to give you any names. Uh, yeah, so I try not to look too much at specific artists.
I like it.
I'd
That's
rather
good.
just look at one piece of work and I'm like, I really like this piece of work because it is truly original, or it is, I'm really gonna remind this piece of work my whole life, or that kind of stuff because of what it gives me on the moment, you know.
Yes.
And I think also what a 5 out of 5 stars portfolio would be is a portfolio which where each piece you're like, holy shit, that guy, like
Yes.
he's got only great ideas. I think that would be what a best portfolio could
Yes.
be. It's like each thing you're like, oh wow, why did he do that? That's so clever. Or that design, no one ever thought about this. How did he come up with this?
Yeah.
And each piece you see from this hypothetical person would be a new like brain explosion, you know. And especially ID wise, I think that's where also, you know, because everyone keeps getting better and everyone is better than everyone in a way. It's I think
Yeah.
it's hard
It's
to
true.
compare yourself to someone specific, also because the people we consider master today, they grew up and they became masters before all the tools we have today, you know. So the skill level
Yes.
shifts. Now students are as good as people that used to work on movies 10 years ago. And
Yes.
so yeah, I find it quite hard to compare to, I'd rather compare projects, let's say, than
I love that
artists.
answer. Now, I love that perspective as well. I think that's
Cool.
very healthy as well.
Mhm.
What about then in general, taking away our peers? What things inspired you? We spoke a little bit about maybe like before we started the episode, traveling and things like that.
Mhm.
What about maybe like things that really had an impact on you growing up? Maybe it was like obviously movies, games, um, a family holiday that really had an impact on you, or something else.
I think comic books had a big impact on me because I would read all the
Yes.
comic books from my dad, as well as traveling. Very very important. You just get to discover so many new takes on life and also takes on design. You know, if you link it to concept art specifically. If you go to Asia, for example, I went to Vietnam last winter, and
Sick.
so many insane buildings. There are so many cool stuff that you just need to see to fill your brain with creativity. You know, I also went to Cambodia for like a few days. I went to Angkor Wat, which is this
Yep.
massive city with like hundreds of temples, and it's insane. You know, you just see all those broken temples, which look so interesting, and you know, traveling to all those places which are truly unique and extremely different from where you're born, it really gives you a different perspective on things, and also maybe opens new design language and new possibilities of how to tackle personal work or work compared to if you just stay in your place all the time.
Yeah.
I think traveling is best usage of money is to travel.
Oh, for
To me.
sure. It's like, yeah, the ultimate cheat code, I think,
Yeah.
especially for artists. Like, you just, even if you try not to look, it sticks in your brain. It just
Mhm.
goes through your
Mhm.
eyeballs and stays in your brain, and then it ends up in your work somehow.
Mhm.
It's cool, it's interesting, and it's a bit strange as well, like how it happens, in my opinion, but in a cool way. So, Jules, final point before we wrap up. Any, I guess, maybe a profound speech, wisdom, words of advice to the listeners before we wrap up?
Um, I'm not sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And yeah, I think don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's a quite harsh industry, and it's very easy to compare yourself with people you shouldn't really compare yourself to because they have a life of experience behind them. Um, Try and look for knowledge. Be proactive with it. And if you set yourself goals, ask yourself if those goals are truly realistic. And if you just do this exercise and make sure that you never really betray yourself by just telling yourself, oh, I'm going to be this huge artist in 2 days, which is clearly impossible, then yeah. So set yourself realistic goals. Try and be proactive at looking at meeting other people and learning the right tools. And I guess, yeah, good luck.
Awesome. Jules, thank you very much for jumping on. We're looking forward to this, and that was a great conversation. And we should definitely do this again, even though this isn't again, but another one.
I'd love to, man. Thanks again for having me, and bye, everyone.
A big thanks to Jules for an amazing conversation, and I really admire his outlook and drive to becoming a better artist and professional. Hit the links to check out what Jules is up to, and then head on over to learnsquare.com and start your journey today. I've been your host, Aaron Danda. Till next time.